Russell Westbrook trade grades, Rockets deal All-Star guard to Wizards for John Wall, first-round pick. The Houston Rockets are trading Russell Westbrook to the Washington Wizards for John Wall and a 2023 protected first-round pick, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Westbrook requested a trade earlier this offseason, and fellow Rockets star James Harden did so as well. This came after the Rockets moved on from coach Mike D'Antoni while allowing general manager Daryl Morey to resign and take over the Philadelphia 76ers. Harden's trade request was based on a desire to join his former teammate Kevin Durant with the Brooklyn Nets, whereas Westbrook wanted a chance to be a true floor general and primary ball handler again. In Washington, he should get that chance. While he will be playing alongside another star guard in Bradley Beal, Beal's excellent shooting and off-ball movement should make the two one of the NBA's better offensive backcourts and help launch the Wizards back into contention for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. That has been Washington's goal this offseason as Beal's free agency looms in 2022. The Wizards got Beal to agree to a one-year extension last offseason, but historically speaking, teams don't retain superstars without winning at a high level. Adding Westbrook, a third-team All-NBA selection last year, should be a step in that direction for the Wizards. Houston receives John Wall, 2023 protected first-round pick. Washington receives Russell Westbrook. The Rockets, meanwhile, are taking an enormous risk on Wall. He and Westbrook have virtually identical supermax contracts, 3 years and around $132 million remaining. But Wall is coming off of a torn Achilles tendon, one of the worst injuries in all of basketball. Considering his pre-existing injury issues, there is no telling how valuable he'll be upon his return, how durable he will remain, or how he will adapt to joining a new team. But the Rockets, desperate for long-term assets after giving up 2 first-round picks and 2 swaps to get Westbrook last offseason, have now added 3 first-round picks this offseason. They still have to deal with Harden's trade request and an unsettled roster, but at the very least, they've managed to restock the cupboard a bit ahead of what is increasingly looking like an inevitable rebuild. The Wizards, meanwhile, have managed to stave off rebuilding for a little while longer by adding Westbrook. That makes them the likely winner of the deal, but both teams earn strong grades for this swap. Wizards grade, B+. The recent history of ball handling guards coming off of torn Achilles tendons is absolutely disastrous. Here's a brief rundown. Kobe Bryant averaged 27.3 points per game on 46.3% shooting in the season in which he tore his Achilles. He averaged 18.9 points on 36.6% shooting thereafter. Brandon Jennings averaged 16.6 points per game on 39.1% shooting for his career before tearing his Achilles. He averaged 6.9 points on 36.3% shooting for the rest of his career. Chauncey Billups averaged 15 points per game on 36.4% shooting in the season in which he tore his Achilles. He played only 41 games afterward, averaging 6.2 points per game on 36.5% shooting. These numbers are especially distressing for Wall. Few players in basketball rely more heavily on athleticism. Achilles injuries tend to rob players of explosiveness. His value comes primarily in transition. Wall is a 32.4% three-point shooter for his career. There is a very real chance that he will not be a positive value player when he returns. With 3 years and over $132 million left on his contract, that would have been disastrous. Westbrook has a nearly identical contract. His durability and athletic decline are also viable concerns. We just saw yet again the sort of limitations he presents in a postseason season. But for a team just fighting to reach the postseason, we can comfortably say this: Westbrook is a positive value player. He is coming off of a third-team All-NBA season in which he averaged 30.9 points, 7.8 rebounds and 6.7 assists on over 50% shooting across his last 33 pre-bubble games. A lot of that success came without a center. Washington's spacing won't be quite as robust as Houston's was, but it's not exactly Oklahoma City either. Any team with Beal and Davis Bertans is going to be able to provide above-average offensive spacing when that is prioritized in lineup decisions. The pre-bubble Wizards finished 13th in offense despite starting Ish Smith and Isaiah Thomas at point guard. The upgrade is considerable. That upgrade was presumably made in the interest of impressing Beal. He signed a one-year contract extension in 2019, but remains only 2 years away from free agency. The Wizards have not yet shown any willingness to trade him, suggesting that their primary goal is to surround him with a winning team in order to persuade him to remain in Washington for the long haul. Whether they've actually done so is a matter of debate. The Eastern Conference is deeper than ever, and Westbrook's history of meshing with fellow superstars is mixed. But Washington is a significantly better team today than they were yesterday. They set a goal and they've taken a step toward achieving it. That isn't the question here. What should be litigated further is whether the Wizards should bother trying to retain Beal at all. Even with Westbrook, they haven't fixed their No. 29 ranked defense. Without a functioning defense, they are unlikely to be a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference, forcing them to fight their way into the postseason through the play-in tournament. Even if they get in, a first-round shell lacking against an Eastern Conference heavyweight like Milwaukee likely awaits them. Fortunately, the Wizards did manage to insulate themselves against Beal's possible departure fairly well in this deal. The pick Washington surrendered is extremely heavily protected, top 14 in 2023, top 12 in 2024, top 10 in 2025, top 8 in 2026, according to the Athletic's Shams Charania. There is no scenario in which they lose Beal and the ability to replace him with a top draft pick down the line. You can question their process, but this is the best possible result they could have hoped for on the path they've chosen to take. They've meaningfully upgraded upon Wall without taking on any extra long-term money or exposing themselves to major long-term downside. That's a big win.